Hello, my name is Michelle Morgan, and my presentation today is on teaching adolescents how to form healthy romantic relationships and avoid abuse. For adolescents, relationships are a very important part of their overall well-being. Knowing how relationships are formed, the phases they go through, and what influences them will allow you, as a parent, to guide and support them through this difficult stage of life. In this presentation, I will identify some characteristics of healthy and unhealthy relationships and provide some resources for you to use to broaden your knowledge and to help you communicate with your child about the health of their romantic relationships. Adolescent romantic relationships are normal and an essential developmental milestone. These relationships teach them how to form and maintain important relationships throughout life. They can also affect their overall development and long-term health and well-being. Adolescent relationships begin through interactions within peer groups. In early adolescence, these groups consist mostly of same-gender peers. In late adolescence, they shift to more mixed-gender groups. Early relationships are often short in length and casual in nature. However, as they mature, these relationships evolve and become more serious, mostly because they have increased their capacity to cope and adapt with more complex issues. They are able to integrate the rewarding aspects and positive feelings about these relationships into their lives, and they learn from both positive and negative experiences. There are 4 skills that a teenager must learn to form a romantic relationship. The better they are at each of these skills will determine the length and quality of their relationships. The first is romantic ability. This refers to their ability to sustain an exclusive romantic relationship for more than a few months. The second is social cognitive maturity. This is their ability to balance their own needs and that of their partner in order to facilitate a mutually rewarding relationship. The third skill is romantic agency. This is their ability to adapt and cope with negative aspects of a romantic relationship. And the last skill, indicating romantic competence, is coherence. Coherence is their ability to integrate positive and negative relationship characteristics into their own life. When researchers looked at romantic competence by gender, they found that girls exhibited greater maturity in their romantic involvements. Their relationships tended to be more stable and they had fewer partners. They appear to gain confidence through their experiences of forming intimate bonds within same-gender peer groups. They have developed ways to communicate and express their emotions more effectively, in turn increasing intimacy, which is needed to maintain a romantic relationship. Boys have developed the capacity for romantic relationships, but through a different path. Their relationships occur within larger groups of same-gender peers. They are less intimate, but their experiences in dealing with and resolving conflict within a larger group has taught them how to maintain romantic relationships. There are many variables that influence adolescent romantic relationships. Gender norms and stereotypes held by and within cultural and ethnic groups exert influence on them through parents and peers. For example, it is expected that boys are more romantically and sexually active and more dominant than girls within relationships. On the other hand, girls are expected to be more innocent and have less ability to cope with positive and negative aspects of romantic relationships. Social pressures, race, and socioeconomic status also influence adolescent romantic relationships. Researchers have found that beliefs about gender roles could influence acceptance of dating violence and may increase the risk of being a perpetrator or a victim. Adolescent minorities and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds tend to accept dating violence more than the non-minority, higher socioeconomic adolescents. Parents also influence adolescent romantic relationships by conveying gender-specific behavior to their children regarding their support for forming romantic attachments. A parent's influence is associated with greater romantic competence. However, there are differences on how each parent exerts their influence. Mothers and fathers equally support children's relationships and see them as a way to help them develop intimacy and closeness. However, fathers see it as a way for their sons to develop romantic competency and to experiment sexually. Parents need to be mindful of the messages they convey about relationships through their words, behaviors, and body language to ensure they form healthy attachments and attitudes about their relationships. There are 4 phases to adolescent romantic relationships. The first phase is the initiation phase. Here, interaction is limited, but physical attraction is prominent. The second phase is the affiliative phase. In this phase, teenagers meet potential partners through mixed gender peer groups. Sexual attraction is strong in this phase, but companionship is more important than intimacy. The third phase is the intimate phase. Here, the couple is officially formed. Deep feelings are expressed and felt, and there is increased sexual activity. The fourth and final phase is the committed phase. Here, the long-term commitment involving caring behaviors and shared intimacy exists. This phase usually takes place in late adolescence and resembles marital relationships. So what is a healthy adolescent relationship? Unfortunately, research has not been able to pin down a universally accepted definition of a healthy relationship. However, there are some characteristics that are universally accepted as being present. They include mutual respect, shared commonalities, respect and acceptance of differences, and peaceful conflict resolution. These characteristics are generalized descriptions of what individuals desire in their partner in order to feel satisfied with their relationship. However, couples often prescribe different meanings for each of these characteristics within their own relationship. So in more detail, mutual respect is one characteristic, and it comes through active listening, sharing of information and feelings, and accepting differences of opinion. Mutual respect increases feelings of trust and enhances intimacy and closeness in a relationship. Shared commonalities involve spending time and sharing common goals or interests. Having things in common with your partner increases intimacy and mutual trust. Respect and acceptance of differences is necessary for a couple to feel comfortable within their relationship. This characteristic builds trust and demonstrates commitment to the relationship. Last and probably the most important characteristic of a healthy relationship is peaceful conflict resolution. This is important because, as you know, all couples have differences of opinion, and conflict resolution can be challenging even in the most healthy relationships. Sharing feelings and opinions in an open, honest way through respectful behavior will help resolve conflicts. Hostile exchanges can destroy trust and intimacy in an otherwise healthy relationship. Mutual respect, sharing commonalities, respect and acceptance of differences, and peaceful conflict resolution are all hallmarks of higher romantic competence and found in the intimate and committed phases of romantic relationships. So how can you tell if an adolescent may be involved in an unhealthy relationship? There are actually several things that you can look for. One thing to look for is a demonstrated lack of respect in the relationship. For example, dismissive or disregarding of their feelings is considered unhealthy and can be reflected in comments like, "I don't care what you want," or "I'm going to the party at my friend's house and I don't want to see you there." Another thing to look for is if behaviors or language is used in an attempt to prohibit success or the pursuit of activities. An example may be one keeping the other out late at night on school nights, preventing them from doing homework or studying. Or one may constantly criticize or diminish their self-confidence by saying things like, "You suck at basketball, so why do you play that silly game?" Or, "You aren't very good at math, so hang out with me because you doing homework won't do you any good." Another thing to look for is controlling, possessive, or smothering behavior. Some examples include isolating them from their friends and family, requiring constant contact through calls and text messages, and driving by their home or work in order to monitor activities. Another thing to look for in an unhealthy relationship is one constantly blaming their failings and problems on their partner. For example, they may say things like, "Why do you make me late for school every day?" Or, "I'm failing calculus but because I have to hang out with you all the time." Another thing to look for are displays of excessive jealousy. Some jealousy is normal, however, if it becomes excessive or to the point of obsession or results in physical, verbal, or mental abuse, then it's probably unhealthy. And finally, if one manipulates or exerts pressure on your partner to change for the sake of the relationship, then that is unhealthy. For example, if a partner used verbal manipulation tactics like saying, "If you love me, you'll have sex with me," or they may even say, "If you don't have sex with me, I'll break up with you." It is important that parents convey to adolescents that any behavior, language, or statement that forces them to 1. Alter their behavior in order to maintain the relationship, or 2. Keep their partner from harming them is unhealthy and should be avoided. Dating violence is a problem encountered by many teenagers, and in the upcoming video from Dr. Christine Rizzo of Bradley Hospital in Riverside, Rhode Island, she talks about what parents need to know to identify and protect their teenager from teen dating violence.
Talk about dating violence, we often think about domestic violence, and typically that will include physical violence, so hitting, pushing, shoving, sexual violence, which can be for sex, but it can also be any kind of unwanted sexual activity. And then the verbal abuse, the name calling, the put downs, that kind of thing. With teen dating violence, we also see a lot of psychological abuse, which can be, public humiliation, intimidating somebody to wear certain things or not wear other things. And then a lot of behaviors that happen through technology, so constant text messaging to figure out where your partner is, a lot of kind of looking through their Facebook page or their MySpace page to see who they're talking to, who they might be flirting with, that kind of thing. And those behaviors are things that parents often don't think about because they're not as typical in the kind of adult domestic violence world. One of the first things to look for is the technology piece. So if you see that your son or daughter is constantly responding to text messages from their partner. The other piece is some of the mental health symptoms that come with being the victim of dating violence. So, all of a sudden your teenager is in this relationship and they're also showing depression, withdrawing from their friends, seeming sad a lot, seeming anxious about the relationship. Those are some of the things that parents can look for as signs that their child might be in a violent dating relationship. So definitely the best thing to do is to start talking to your teen early about what to expect in dating, what are healthy ways to be treated in a relationship, also healthy ways to treat your partner in a relationship. If you're at the point where you already think that your son or daughter is actually in a violent relationship, I think that's the time where you want to try and get help. Because it can often be really confusing for the teenager. On the one hand, they know that something bad is happening. On the other hand, they may be really attached to the partner and may actually not want to end the relationship. And so it's really difficult for parents to step in then and try and set limits on them seeing the partner or that kind of thing. So getting kind of a third party involved at that point is a really, really good idea. And oftentimes that person can help the child make a decision that the parent just couldn't do for whatever reason, which is another reason why it's great for parents to try and get to know the peers of their kids, to actually take the time to get to know them so that that person feels comfortable with you, so that if they're concerned, they might actually come to you and tell you about it.
So is there hope for making an unhealthy relationship healthy? Yes. If warning signs are addressed early and in an appropriate manner, they can be resolved and result in making their relationship much better. Parents must try to have open, honest, and loving conversations with their teenager about relationships. Parents can build trust in their child by listening carefully, asking leading questions, and being understanding of their child's feelings. They should avoid judging, criticizing, complaining, blaming, or using sarcasm when talking to them about them. Parents also need to be aware that their body language, behaviors, and verbal cues can convey negative messages like displeasure or disappointment. It is important to convey to your teenager that if conflicts or issues cannot be resolved, and if there is an escalation towards violence or abuse, professional help may be necessary to keep them safe. Obedience is not respect, and violence is unacceptable in any relationship.